Okay, hopefully there's audio on this and everything is working properly. A little bit stuck since I'm on my phone. My computer decided now would be a great time to update to Windows 11, so it's taking forever. Hopefully everyone can hear me, and if not, I'll have to redo this. But just wanted to go through some music theory basics for this video. And so yeah, I guess we'll just get started. So as you all know that we've talked about the number system, I think each individual coach has talked about it pretty substantially in all of their videos. And so the number system, just to recap, is what you see there: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Each number corresponding to a note within a scale of a key. And so today we're going to be really focusing on kind of the backing behind all of this, the music theory behind it, primarily focusing on the major scale and what that ends up meaning for us as musicians in terms of chord structures and how things are built. So as you can see, the major scale is comprised of the 7 different notes, and for major scale, the difference, the distance between each note is kind of denoted by the W's and the H's. So W is full step, H is a half step, and so the cadence for a major scale is full, full, half, full, 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 half. And I put it down there in the numbers. So between the 1 and the 2 of the scale is a whole step, between 2 and the 3, etc. You guys get the picture. Minor scales on there too. We're not going to really go too much into that. I don't think it's as important for our purposes on the Wicked Human. So what is an interval? The interval is the space between 2 different notes. So it's different from a chord. A chord is a bunch of notes put together. It's technically a bunch of harmonies, and so an interval is just the space between 2 notes. So the next thing is what makes an interval major versus minor. So a major is 2 whole steps. That's a major interval, not necessarily a major chord. We'll get into that in a second. So a major interval is 2 whole steps. A minor interval is a whole step and a half step. And so if you look up at the major scale, like with the 1 W, 2 W, 3 H, all of that, you can see there 2 whole steps would make a major interval. So an example is from number 1 to 2 to 3. That's 2 whole steps. So that would be a major interval. A minor interval, a good example would be 3 to 5. You see it's an H and plus a W, or 6 to 1. That's a W and an H. And so that constitutes a minor interval. And so coming down here, I wish that we could all be on the screen at the same time, but I don't think it will be, unfortunately. Feel free to write any of this down to kind of help visualize it. So when we're talking about a major chord or a minor chord, sometimes you'll hear a director say 1. Okay, that's as in play the 1 chord. That's often, or in our case, that is always going to be a major triad or a major chord. Sometimes you'll also hear the director say minor 6 or 2 minor, 3 minor. Those are all examples of minor triads. And so kind of going off of our terminology that we've gone through so far in this video, with what a major and a minor interval is, a major chord is then created with a major interval, followed then by a minor interval. And so the bottom interval, so in the triad, there's 2 different intervals, you could say. The 1 to the 3 in this example, and the 3 to the 5. And so a major chord or triad is created when the first interval is major. So 1 to 3 is major, and then 3 to 5 is minor. And so this can also be applied to creating a different chord structure. Not something that we would probably ever see, but if you wanted to make a major chord or minor chord, then you would flip it to what we see on the bottom, and I'll get into a little bit more detail there, where the first interval spacing is minor and the second interval spacing is major. So for a minor triad, a great example is the intervals between 6 to 1 and then 1 to 3. So as you can see, that first interval is minor. If we come back up here, if you look at from 6 to, and I wish I could have a cursor on the screen, but 6 to 1, so 6 to 7, whole, 7 to 1, half. So that is minor. And then on top is a major interval. You've already seen that one, 1 to 3, right? And so that's what makes it a minor chord. There's distinct differences in the sounds of this, as you well know. Major tends to be very uplifting, happy, triumphant. Minor tends to be more mysterious or sad. And a great application of this in our context is the chord structures and progressions that Ryan has created for the keys team to play during talking keys. Leading a progression starting with a minor chord. So for our cases, most of the time, 6 minor creates a little bit more of a mysterious, maybe a more somber, even a more, the joke is convicting atmosphere versus an uplifting atmosphere, which would be started with a major triad chord progression like 4, 5, 6, 1, as opposed to a more convicting one, which would be starting with a minor, like a 6, 4, 1, 5 or something like that. So that's just a couple of practical applications of music theory that we see in our context. And so hopefully this is helpful. There is, for another time, these things, the spicy chords, which we see some of them very frequently, like suspended chords, and some other ones not as frequently, but we'll get into that another time. Hopefully what we have gone through today has been helpful, just with the major scale, integrating the number system to the music theory that backs it, and understanding major scale, first of all, understanding intervals and what makes a major versus a minor chord and how it's important to be aware of that in our context. So, okay, hopefully that all the coordinating stuff.